The reality of things like passion, a passion is a fleeting emotion, right? Some days you wake up passionate about something, some days you don't wake up passionate about something. I think it all comes down to discipline. You have to be incredibly disciplined, in my opinion, to be successful. Hard work without discipline is useless, and discipline without hard work is useless. People lie, but numbers don't. Let me start with our numbers.
Could you tell us the story behind TransCrypts, how it started?
So we want to take emerging technologies and bring it to the financial space. We believe that every single individual should own the right to their own information. When I was applying to grad school at Harvard, they wanted me to verify my official transcript. I had to go pay San Jose State like $10 to send over an official transcript. I don't actually own anything that proves that I went to school there. It's a very silly concept in my opinion. We service over 170 different enterprises, encompassing over 500,000 employees. Whenever there's a natural disaster or a war or local hospitals, they can't validate medical records for patients at that hospital anymore. What we did is we designed a system to be able to fully automate that, and we gave it away for free in Turkey, Ukraine.
Talk to me about the efforts now in Turkey and what you're doing there.
How are you supposed to access your medical records, right? And quality of care and patient quality care goes down.
I think entrepreneurship is art in its truest form. Art, a painting, is a static object on a wall. A business is a living, breathing unit that is nothing but creativity. My name is Zain. I'm 23 years old. I'm the co-founder and CEO of TransCrypts.
Nice. We're really glad to have you here. Thank you for joining us. So could you start off telling us a bit about your favorite memory from your childhood?
Favorite memory from my childhood. It probably goes back to my summer trips back home to Pakistan. This was probably like 2007, and it was my entire mother's side of my family. We went to a beach house about an hour away from Karachi, and it was a very sweet time of my life. I think the childhood naivety was still very much present, and it was a very amazing time. None of these stresses anymore.
Yeah.
Right?
Wow. What's your favorite thing about Pakistan? Someone who's never been there, like.
I think it's just the people. People only go to Pakistan for the people.
Yeah.
Super north Pakistan is very beautiful. There's a lot of beautiful mountains and stuff like that. But I think the rest of Pakistan, particularly Karachi, there's not much to see. It's just the people that you go there for.
So we're here today to talk mainly about TransCrypts. So we see you're repping the shirt, mashallah. But before we get to exactly what TransCrypts is and everything like that, let's start with your first entrepreneurial journey. Do you remember what that is? Your first, I guess, business move that you had maybe in high school and college, or?
Yeah, the first one I can't say on the podcast.
Okay.
I guess, I've always been, I think more so than entrepreneurship, I've been interested in like public markets, stocks, equities, options, bonds. So I started trading when I was like 12 years old. Before it became cool to trade, right? Before there was whole Wall Street bets and Robinhood and all that, you had to pay like $8 to initiate a trade, and $8 to sell the trade. So the first thing I did was, I think this was 2014. There's this thing, I forget the exact ticker, but it's a 3x bear ETF on the oil markets. I opened up an option on it, because I was predicting that oil would be an oversupply that summer. I was right, so I made like $1,500, and ever since then I was kind of hooked on to trading and learning about public markets and through that businesses and understanding businesses as a whole.
Nice. And what got you interested in entrepreneurship specifically?
Yeah, it's the ability to create. I think entrepreneurship is art in its truest form. The ability to create everything from a logo to the product to marketing, through everything. It's art. A painting is a static object on a wall. A business is a living, breathing unit that is nothing but creativity, right? Especially a startup, where you literally take an idea that you thought about and you initiate it. And I think that's really art in its truest form.
That's really cool. I love how you talk about like how the entrepreneurship journey is more of an art, right? And that's something that you probably built through like your mindset, right? So a lot of people these days, they look at entrepreneurship, they think like drop shipping, they think like the easy come up, but that's not the reality, right? So how would you like say someone would build the right entrepreneurial mindset and start their foundation strong than someone who's just like doing like this little drop shipping and all that?
I think it all comes down to discipline. you have to be incredibly disciplined, in my opinion, to be successful. Hard work without discipline is useless, and discipline without hard work is useless. Discipline and hard work leads to success, in my opinion. The ability to live a very regimented lifestyle, to say no to a lot of things, to be able to remain focused, driven, and passionate about what you're doing, all comes from discipline. The reality of things like passion, a passion is a fleeting emotion, right? Some days you wake up passionate about something, some days you don't wake up passionate about something, right? Some people can even say the same thing about love, right? But what keeps you in long-term commitments, whether that be relationships or a business, is the ability to be disciplined. When your emotions don't want you to do something, oh, I'm tired, I don't want to go to work today. Yeah. Discipline takes you out of the bed and takes you to work, and constantly forces you to become better and better and better.
What about motivation? Where does that play into that?
So you need motivation of a higher purpose. Right? I'm not one personally motivated by worldly things, not to sound like a monk, but a Lamborghini does not, it really doesn't excite me, right? You need to be motivated by things that exceed that, in my opinion, right? And there's really, like, when people say I'm motivated by worldly things, they're really motivated by their emotions and their desires. I think that's also a fleeting type of motivation as well, right? People's desires, what they want, are constantly changing, right? You get a Lamborghini, then you want a Bugatti. Then you get a Bugatti, you want a plane, right? It's never ending. And but I think that the real type of motivation is motivation towards maybe making a real change in this world and using your money for good, right? I realized very early on that I was always been kind of like an activist type of person, right? As someone who'd speak out about things that I thought were wrong, even if they weren't politically or socially correct to speak out about it. I realized I can protest all I want, but the people who really make change in this country and this world are people with money and power, and I wanted that to be able to make my mark on this world.
Wow, that's amazing. We jumped straight into the conversation of entrepreneurship. I love it.
Yeah,
So
awesome.
I wanted to ask you about, there's this concept online, you know, I'm sure we've all seen this concept of like get rich quick. All these things of like entrepreneurship is this really easy thing. You start a startup, you do this specific move, you know, before it was crypto, now it's AI. There's all these things that get rich quick type of thing. Like there's that mindset of like, you don't really need all these big things. You don't need to spend time. You don't need to have the dedication. You can just have these hacks that make you rich. What would you have to say about that?
So, I mean, that's nothing new, right? People have won lotteries and got a lucky day in Vegas since, for the last 150 years or whatever, right? Some people inherit a tremendous amount of wealth, right? But what works for the masses and what works for people is that, hard work and discipline, right? There's no such thing as getting rich quick. I mean, there is, but as for every one person that's gotten rich quick, there's 100 people that have failed doing so, right? So your best bet, if you want to achieve material wealth, in my opinion, is to go after an idea, a business, or pursuit of excellence. I think that's a better way of framing it. Whether that's excellence in your business or excellence in your profession or excellence in one particular category, pursuing excellence will lead to success.
That's awesome, man. I'd like to ask, about the discipline you mentioned, right? So how does someone build that discipline? Let's say, kids got an idea or someone's got an idea and they want to do it and they don't know where to start and they have to have that discipline. How would you build that?
There's a misconception, I believe, in Western philosophy of the concept of freedom. So freedom and discipline often are conflicting things, right? Discipline teaches you to do stuff in a particular regimented way, whereas freedom encourages people to behave on their own rationale. I think that there's no concept of freedom. The nature of man is not one that is meant to be free, right? I think that humankind as a whole is really you're in servitude or enslaved to really three basic things, right? Some people are enslaved to themselves, their own desires. Some people are enslaved to this world, and some people are enslaved to a higher purpose, right? And the illusion of freedom is just that, an illusion. So once you realize that, right, if you think you're free, you're most likely enslaved to your desires, right? And we've seen many people who've achieved everything that their desires could want, right? Women, cars, houses, money, and they still went ahead and OD'd or killed themselves, right? You see the majority of people that you know today are enslaved to this world, their job, their boss, and there's nothing wrong with that. That's oftentimes what people define as a rat race. but I personally choose to be enslaved to a higher purpose, a higher meaning. And I think through that, when you realize that freedom's an illusion, you realize discipline is the only way to achieve success, and that the lack of freedom isn't a bad thing. It's actually through discipline you'll find your true meaning and purpose and achieve more of a spiritual sense of freedom.
That is really
That's
good.
deep,
Wow, yeah. I mean, I think on this concept of like, you know, how you're mentioning that these people who have all the wealth in the world, they have all these things. You know, a lot of times they say that they've like grinded, they've done all these things, they've like been doing like, I'm not gonna bring up any names, but you know, they have all these like influencers online who claim to be businessmen, who claim to be like, you know, they've tried everything. They claim that they know the truth about how someone should be an entrepreneur, how someone should take on the path of like starting a business and everything like that. What would you say to those people? Like, how much of it is actual truth and how much of it is just clickbait, getting views?
I think most of it is clickbait, right? The reality of business and success in this world is not really nice things, right? Like, it's not like things that are not things that people would watch, right? It's things that your parents have been telling you since you were a child, right? Work hard, get up early, do your work, right? Focus, be motivated, be disciplined, right? They're not like, oh, join my drop shipping scheme, right?
I feel like if we find it fun, then it's not really like, we shouldn't immediately find it fun, right?
It goes back to emotions being fleeting, and you know that's why you have discipline, right? Fun is a subjective thing, right? Some days I find work incredibly rewarding and fun. Some days I find work very boring, right? I'll give you an example, right? My company is small, so I'm the HR manager for a lot of our stuff. HR stuff is so boring to me, right? It's not why I became an entrepreneur. So maybe those days I find that work particularly not fun. But there's days when we're building product, thinking about how that would look. I find those days incredibly rewarding and fun. So, but it's discipline that pushes you through both tasks. So ultimately, I think that, you know, the modern clickbait entrepreneur, if you're really making $100 million a year, you're not going to make YouTube videos. Right?
That's true. That's true. Yeah.
And you definitely wouldn't sell a course after that YouTube video for $1,000.
Courses are...
Yeah, they're scams, right? Your business is to
99%
sell
of the time.
courses. They're not to... if you were actually rich at the $100 course, would it make a difference to
You
you?
think like that business is built through like real world experience more than those courses would offer, right?
You just need to jump into the ocean and learn how to swim, right? And it's okay if you drown. That's the nice thing about America. When you create a company, goes under. Hopefully, you didn't invest too much of your personal assets in it. You invested your time, and then you go back out and do it again, and you do it again, and
And
you
you
do it
learn
again.
throughout the process.
Exactly. It's like basketball, right? When you like shooting free throws, right? Free throws are a pretty standardized shot, but like the first 100 times you can shoot a free throw, you're not gonna be very accurate. But the 10,000 time you shoot a free throw, you'll be pretty damn accurate. So it's the same way. Repetitions. I think that's all business is. You just need repetitions of certain skills to build excellence.
Right on. That's interesting. But what about I hear a lot of people talk about connections and having the right connections in terms of business. Would you say that's just as important as those like other discipline and all that, or?
No, I built my business without any help from anyone. I didn't ask anyone for introductions or connections. And I was like a 20-year-old kid out of college who went to a state school, right? Like I didn't go to an Ivy League school. I didn't go to, my dad doesn't know Bill Gates, right?
Yeah.
I built it all on grind and grit, right? So yeah, sure, if you know like the right people, it's probably a lot easier. But I think that's oftentimes used as an excuse, right? But that's not to say that there were certain things that were playing in my advantage either. Like I grew up here in the Bay Area, so that's obviously a nice place to start a startup. But as a whole, I would say connections don't matter as much.
So in terms of networking, this concept of like going out to events and meeting different people and, pitching your services to others, or like even just if you have someone that you look up to, following them, reaching out to them and everything like that, how much of it do you think is actually important? Because we've had like mixed opinions on this podcast. We have someone say it's completely useless. We had someone saying it's still somewhat useful.
You need to know people. Business is not a thing in a vacuum. You're part of a larger system, right? The U.S. economy, whatever, right? So you need to know players in that field, and you need to have relationships with those players, right? As a business person, I need to have a good relationship with my employees. I need to have a good relationship with my investors, my clients. So I would say that networking is important through that lens, but when you network, you have to understand what are you coming with, right? From a young age, from a young age, was when I started my startup, right, which was 3 years ago. So I guess at 20, which is now a young age to me. But I always viewed myself as an equal to the investors, right? I'm giving you something that I've spent a year of my life doing, right? So when I'm having this conversation with you, I'm viewing you as an equal. I'm not coming to you as like some kid, oh, please invest in my startup, right? So you need to have that self-confidence, and you need to be able to understand that, like, you need to first accomplish things, and then so that when you go network with people, they respect you as an equal and not as someone lesser. I'm not asking for charity, and people don't network for charity. When someone gives me their email and I give them my email, they're not only expecting that I might come and ask them for help one day, but they're also expecting that they can come to me and ask me for help one day. So network, but only network once you reach something.
So you have to build yourself as an individual first before you go and present yourself to others.
I believe so. I think that's the only way that you'll ever get people to respect you.
And how would you know how to add value to other people's lives? Like,
you don't have to add value to other people's lives. You have to add value to your own life. When you're a high value person, people want to be around you, right? So, and that's something that you can control. I can't control your opinion of me. I can't control your opinion of me. I can't control the value that I bring you, or I can't control the value I bring you. But I can control the value in my opinion of myself, first and foremost, through self-confidence and through, a lot of entrepreneurship's up here. The biggest battles are always up here, right? So I can control what's up here, right? And then through that, I can realize my value and work on my value and become someone of value.
wow, some really great points there.
That's awesome.
So, we've talked a lot about entrepreneurship and everything. Let's talk about your startup. So TransCrypts, could you tell us the story behind TransCrypts, how it started, and kind of the journey that led us up until now?
Yeah. So TransCrypts was started in September of 2020. Actually, tomorrow's our 3-year anniversary. And it was created in the middle of the pandemic because I realized I was deeply dissatisfied with my field of study. I studied electrical engineering, and I did not want to be an electrical engineer. I took what I needed to learn from it in terms of engineering mindset, and I applied it towards coming up with innovative solutions that solved real world problems. So the idea for TransCrypts, and really TransCrypts is much more than this idea. Our vision for the company is much more ambitious. The vision for the company as a whole is we want to take emerging technologies and bring it into the financial space, right? So like emerging technologies, fintech basically, right? That's the whole premise of the company, right? And that's come from my own personal passion with the banking and trading and financial markets, but also comes from my personal passion with emerging technologies, whether that be blockchain, AI, Internet of Things, whatever that emerging technology is. So at TransCrypts, what we do is we do self-sovereign verification for the masses. That's our core product. What that means in a nutshell is that we believe that every single individual should own the right to their own information. Right. Right now, if you go to university, right, like I went to San Jose State, right. When I was applying to grad school at Harvard, they wanted me to verify my official transcript. Right. You put the grades that you get on your application, but then they ask for official transcript that they can verify it. I had to go pay San Jose State like $10 to send over an official transcript. I don't actually own anything that proves that I went to school there. Right. I'm reliant on San Jose State, and I have to give them money whenever someone needs to verify I actually went to school there. It's a very silly concept in my opinion. Why can't I own some digitally verifiable document that can prove what my credentials are? And that's the premise of TransCrypts. So our primary space is employment and income verification. We service over 170 different enterprises, encompassing over 500,000 employees with our product.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah, that's really cool. I think what I really love about your story is you had an issue that you personally faced, and you took that and you were able to create a product that solves it. I think a lot of times I hear this concept of like people not knowing what, like they want to have a startup, they want to have a business, or even anything, like they want to have a YouTube channel or something like that, but they can't really think of anything. I think something I've learned from a lot of the guests on this podcast is like, what's the issue that you have, you can solve for that. Like,
absolutely. I think most people would agree this world's imperfect. So the question is, how do we make this world perfect? And whenever someone says, "Oh, I want to become an entrepreneurship, but I can't think of a problem to solve," well, that's a silly question to me, right? Like, the world's imperfect. We can all admit that, right? So how can you improve this world? And there you go. You have a startup. And it doesn't have to be like solve climate change or cure cancer. Those are pretty big problems to solve, right? It can be as simple as, I don't want to pay to have my transcripts sent. I want to own that document. or I don't want when someone's doing an employment and income verification check on me, I don't want some third party doing it. I want to be able to provide that information myself.
That's interesting. So you talked a little bit about like the companies that you work for, 170 plus like enterprises. So the company that's working for other companies of that size, how are you able to manage all your employees, and how's your work-life balance looking like?
With 20 plus years of experience, right? I'm limited by my age, but I'm constantly learning. So I hope I'm doing an okay job. I'm sure some of my employees would disagree, but I do my best there. As for work-life balance, you need to decide in your life what's important, right? What I've decided in my life that's important is my family, and I'm a man of religion, so my religion. I don't do anything else, right? I recently started going back to the gym because I realized I have to start focusing on that as well. But, I only do those three things, right? My day starts at 6 a.m. I pray, I get ready to go to work. I work at like 7:30. I work till like 3:34. Come back home, hang out with my family, do it with my chores, go to the gym, and then I end it with prayers and go to sleep. Discipline, right? There's no time for girls, partying, drinking, any of that other weird stuff, right? I've decided that's what's important to me, so I do that. So I'm able to balance work and life very easily because I've figured out what in life really matters to me, and I don't worry about the rest.
So entertainment, you've completely cut out entertainment.
Yeah, I don't watch TV or movies, and I've stopped playing video games. Like I enjoy the occasional movie, right? Like sometimes me and my sister will go to the movie theaters and watch a movie, or my mom and me, right? But no, I don't watch that. And I've gotten off social media completely. I realized that even like Reels, Instagram Reels, or TikTok, or YouTube Shorts were just they're
escape the entertainment like of the world,
Loophole.
and like exactly how would you say would be the best way to
keep your brain engaged with what matters, right? Your brain entertainment. The entertainment industry's taught us to become high on cheap dopamine, right? So the scrolling on your phone, or the movie that removes you from your world's problems and immerses you in this other reality, right? Has become a drug for us not to deal with our own issues, and that's the issue why mental health. There's a mental health crisis in this country, right? We've told people to run away from their issues, not deal with them, and they keep running away from it until it becomes so big that they break down. They can no longer run away, right? Be okay with your life's problems, and just spend that time thinking about it, working like it. There's nothing wrong with being in your thoughts. And I think we've stopped doing that, right? When you're in the car, you're listening to music. When you get home, you lay on your bed, you're going through some useless TikToks, right? So just spend some time and just think, right? Think about your role. Think about your role in this universe. Think about who you are, who you want to be. Think about your family. Think about your relationships with your family, right? These are things that are much more important. And I think when you start thinking about it, you can identify solutions and problems, and you can identify solutions to those problems, and that'll make you become a high-value person, like I mentioned earlier.
That's amazing. Yeah, I think there's a lot of times where we fall into this trap. I think it's like almost become normal for us to just not control our own lives. So I wrote a LinkedIn post about this where it's just like we give up control of our own lives, and instead we just let everything around us control us. So we let the next notification on our phone, the next reel in our feed, the next YouTube video, the next creator that we follow that posts a video, the next, I don't know, thing on our calendar that we haven't necessarily chosen to put there ourselves. We completely have given up control of our own lives.
It's
so
a very common feeling, right? Like I mentioned earlier, humanity is enslaved to three things. And most of humanity is enslaved to their own desires or to other things in this world, right? So I think when you realize that, you can be more conscious of who you are enslaved of. There's no concept of freedom. Freedom's humans are not free. If we were free, I should be able to fly right now, but I can't, right? I'm limited by the biology in my body, right? And I'm limited by my mental cognition, and I'm limited by my emotional stability, right? These limitations prevent me from being free. Humanity was never designed to be free.
So for someone like in the loophole, like we talked about, right? They go home, they scroll, and they're stuck on the social media trap. What would you say is like the first step towards bettering yourself? You say deleting social media and then going to the gym and that, or how would you approach the subject?
I think baby steps, right? We like to do everything in one day, right? The reality is it takes time and to do things. So I think, like the gym, right? Like I'm not Arnold Schwarzenegger, right? So the first day I went to the gym, it was a little difficult, right? So but for like a month, I just told myself every single day I'm going to the gym. Even if I just do like one set, I want to get in the habit of just going to the gym, right? And yeah, it was really difficult when you first start going to the gym, right? Like I used to work out a lot before COVID, but after COVID, I got busy with work and I stopped working out, right? So it was really, really difficult, right? But now I can spend an hour at the gym and not even realize where the time goes, right? Whereas before I was running out after 10, 15 minutes, right? Like drenched in sweat. So I think that the same way with social media, right? Like, you can start off by deleting your least favorite social media app, and then work your way down into your most favorite.
And there's a lot of times there's this not concept, but like this feeling that you have in your mind that you're gonna miss out, that like your friends are gonna post something and you're gonna feel bad if like not checking their stories on Instagram. So how would you say you overcome that feeling?
People aren't important. There's what are you missing out on? Yeah. Right. Someone's birthday dinner. Their pictures of food, or a group of random compilation of a group of people in their photo. Like, what are you really missing out on social media? Nothing, right? Yeah, sometimes I'm a little out of touch with so I'll use my own vocabulary that I've learned, right? But you're not really missing out on anything, man. When you realize that, and you realize what's important, right? What you're really missing out on is your ability to improve yourself and to overcome what's in here. And that's a lot more important than whatever some friend 2,000 miles away is eating for dinner that night.
It takes discipline to overcome that.
Exactly.
That's really good points there. So I'm going to backtrack a bit, going back to TransCrypts. You had this idea, you started it, you created this company. What were the first steps, I guess, and like, how did you overcome the challenges at the beginning of starting a company like this?
Discipline. No, in reality, it was just baby steps, right? Like I there was not one day where I felt like, oh, TransCrypts is okay. There's TransCrypts. No, it was baby steps. Incorporate the company, then and I was also still in school, so keep in mind, like this wasn't a full-time endeavor, right? Okay, now let's work on the idea. Let's talk to some people about the idea. Is it something that's actually valid, right? Let's iterate on the idea. Right. Let's make today. We're going to design the name. What is the name of the company going to be? What is the logo going to be? Right. Let's build a website. Right. So these small little baby steps. Right. But the thing with repetitions is that when you do something every single day, say I spend an hour every single day. Well, in a year, that's 365 hours I spent on something. So I've accomplished a whole lot of stuff. Right. So what people see TransCrypts today is really 3 years of constant repetition. Right. 8, 10, 12 hours a day. So it's like, oh, wow, you're so lucky. Well, no, not really, because I worked my tail off for it. And even before TransCrypts, I was still doing things before that in high school and middle school to improve myself as an individual.
That's awesome, man. So for someone like who's, younger, 18, 19, 20, in that range, and they have an idea they want to start, right? A business they want to pursue. What would you say, like, for example, like setting up the business, right? There's a lot of aspects of setting up a business. There's marketing. There's, like you said, the logo, taking those baby steps. But what would be the most important thing?
Well, I think adding on one more point to that, before even all of that, how would they even know whether they should proceed with their idea, and then like taking the idea and doing all those steps?
Good point. Or how to validate their idea.
Just talk to people, right? If people don't think it's so, like, let's say your idea is in the grocery space. Talk to people that that work at grocery stores. Talk to the clerk when you go next time you take your grocery out, right? Talk to figure out if and that's maybe where something like networking might come in handy, right? And figure out or talk to someone who has experience in something like this, right? But at the end of the day, no one will ever be able to validate your idea. The markets validate your idea, and the only way for your idea to be truly validated is when you actually take it to the market. That's a nice thing about capitalism. It's a very easy validator of good ideas.
Yeah. I mean that's perfect. Yeah. I mean, and then he was saying that
so we validated our idea. We got an idea going up. So what is the next step? Like, should we focus on getting clients, marketing, structuring it? Like you said, you made an LLC. How should those steps be taken, and in what time frame?
So I mean, structuring is probably the most important, right? So I didn't actually make an LLC. I made a C corp, a Delaware C corp. So most startups are Delaware C corps. But yeah, you obviously want to incorporate some sort of legal entity. But before you do that, you should have some premise of what you're going to do, and you should have some premise of what you bring value to. And you should have some idea of the commitment level you're going to do. So, like a lot of times people like to do is they like to, before they actually get into a hobby or a sport, they like to buy the most expensive thing for that, right? So like if you just like the second day you go to the gym, you go buy like the most expensive Nike shoes. Well, that's probably not the best idea, right? Because let's see if you actually go to the gym for more than this, right? And that's why people have all kinds of expensive equipments at their home that they've never touched because they got into something for a few days and then they stopped doing it, right? I think the same way with startups, right? Like or entrepreneurship. Do something for like a month or two and then think about incorporating and doing all that because there is some expenditure for that.
What if you're going like what if you're working on an idea and you say you've been working on it for a while, you made a website and you're pushing, but you're not getting anywhere? What would you say to that person?
Is your idea live?
Is your idea what?
Is your idea like in the market?
Yeah.
Well, then be very realistic with yourself. Is this actually something you're getting? Oh, first figure out what you can do differently, right? Like, okay, can I improve my marketing? Can I improve my go-to-market strategy? Can I improve my product itself? But if there's still no one, utilizing your product, the reality is you have a really bad idea. That's a tough thing to deal with, but that happens to all of us.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I mean, I think there always is things you can change, but eventually you get to a point where you realize that like.
Absolutely. Like Elon Musk has this company, like the Boring Company, that digs like tunnels in the ground. It's a terrible idea. That's why it hasn't gone anywhere in like 10 years, right? So, but he has other great ideas like Tesla and SpaceX that are doing really well.
X.
And X, yeah.
So through transcripts, what are some impacts on the world that like global impacts that transcripts has had?
Yeah, so we believe in the concept that an organization should not just be for generating profits. The company is actually a very interesting entity. The companies as a whole. Companies I view as living, breathing objects, right? And the really cool thing about a company is that you generate a certain amount of profit. And if you have a really good product, you can generate that profit for a very long time, right? Through years, like Coca-Cola has been generating profit since like 150 years or whatever, right? If you can dedicate a certain portion of that profits to philanthropy, you've created a very powerful system, right? Or use your product towards philanthropy. So either use your time, your money, or your product and give it back. So what we did in the realm of documents was that we did medical record verification. So whenever there's a natural disaster or a war or whatever, local hospitals, they can't validate medical records for patients at that hospital anymore, right? A lot of times their digital health record systems go down, they lack electricity, they're just a triage center, right? It's all hands on deck. No one's validating medical records at that particular moment in time. What we did is we designed a system to be able to fully automate that, and we gave it away for free in Turkey, Ukraine, as well with some other nonprofits that currently use it.
Wow, that's amazing. And I think I saw stories even on the news, even that like how many refugees were could like use the help of transcripts to actually.
I think the last time I checked, it was about 10,000 families in Ukraine, and then a few hundred people in Turkey. That's less so now that the earthquakes disaster relief thing is resolved, but Ukraine is probably the most active user of it just due to the ongoing conflict.
That's awesome, man. So I want to touch on a little bit about like you talked about profits and philanthropy. So when building like a company and you start making some money, how do you start managing that money? I know there's a cost and taxes and all that, but could you touch a little bit on that? How you manage the money for the company?
Like manage the money in terms of like how do I manage my books or?
So I mean like money comes in, right? Where does it all go?
Oh, okay.
And how do you say, okay, let me save this money or let me reinvest this into the company?
Yeah.
How does that work?
So from an organization perspective, right, there is no savings, right? We money that we generate is immediately reinvested. We're a small startup, and people expect us to invest in growth, right? We're not like Coca-Cola where we can pay out a dividend, right? So almost all of that money goes back, right? The biggest thing is our biggest expenditure is employees, right? We hire everything from like AI engineers with PhDs to full stack developers to everything in between. In the Bay Area, which is a very expensive market. So just like our payroll for one product can be upwards of $1 million a year, right? Because we hire the best. I don't believe in hiring mediocrity, right? the lease that we have in our office, and then the food expenses that we do. We take our team out to lunch once a week, stuff like that. So those are probably the biggest expenses. But yeah, believe in constantly reinvesting. There's this concept that Paul Graham, the founder of Y Combinator, came up with. It's called being default alive. So I think a lot of early stage startups should focus on becoming default alive, where their revenues can take care of their expenses. And you can and if they don't, you can scale down those expenses so that you can break even day in and day out. I think a lot of startups have gotten the idea that you can maintain losses indefinitely. Like Uber had their first profitable quarter, like I think 2 quarters ago. The company's been around since like 2009, right? So that whole concept of being able to generate losses forever, I think is a very flawed concept. And growth at all costs is something that's already being challenged, especially in a high interest rate environment.
Yeah, I mean, that Uber example is crazy. I learned about that recently, and there's like so many examples of that too. Like, it doesn't necessarily have to always be something that's, I think a lot of times, like, especially now, like, people want to start a startup. They have this mentality that like they're only doing it for money, but that shouldn't be the mentality of a startup. It should be to actually have impact and learn things, right?
Yeah, it's an art, right? Like, why do you draw a painting, right? Any artist who does a painting to make money is probably a very stupid artist, because most artists don't make money, and most startups fail. So you should do a startup for other reasons. Money, if you want to make money, go become a doctor. It's a given path. If I go, spend 4 years in undergraduate doing something in the life sciences, then I take my MCAT, get into med school, do my USMLEs, and go do my residency for a few years, and then maybe a fellowship after that. You'll make $500,000 a year depending on what you're doing. That's a much more guaranteed path towards making money, right? Startups are a terrible path to make money because there's a lot of risk for failure, right? But it's like art. So
And you make some money along the way then if you do a good job at it.
Exactly.
So how does someone like get out of the mindset where you're focusing on the money and the bag like is in your eyes instead of focusing on achieving like growth? I feel like I've heard like sometimes some people say focus more on the growth, focus more on building something that will grow, and the money will come with it. So how would you like respond to that?
So the bag personally or for the company? Are you talking about securing the bag personally or for the company?
So a lot of people, like when they're starting out, they're looking at obviously for themselves. So how do you change that from I want the money for myself to I want to grow this company and like focus more on growth rather than personal gain?
I don't know if you should change it, right? Like I think these two things are connected, right? Obviously, as human beings, we are driven by certain we live in a world that's capitalistic and we need to make a certain amount of money, right? But you should not be focusing on making. You should obviously take a salary and all that from your business once it reaches that stage. But I think that money, while it's important, is a bad way to do it in a startup. You're doing the wrong thing if you just care about money, right? I think that's ultimately the thing, right? Like for the first 2 years of TransCrypts, I didn't take any money, right? I made $0, and even today I'm the lowest paid employee at TransCrypts, right? So that's a sacrifice that I have to take personally, right? I'm leaving hundreds of thousands of dollars on the table. I'm sure I can get a very lucrative career at another company, right? So yeah, I don't think. I think obviously you have to care about money. I'm not going to come out and say you shouldn't, and you'd like to remove those two things. But if you're doing a startup for the money, it's just a bad idea. I don't think it's something that's going to really work out.
That makes sense. Yeah, I mean, it makes perfect sense. So with TransCrypts, what are some places you want to take in the future? Where do you hope to see it go? And are there any technologies or upcoming stuff that you're excited about, like implementing?
There's something new that we're working on. It's a whole new product. It's actually totally different than our original product, kind of going back to our idea of bringing emerging technologies into financial solutions that I'm particularly passionate about. I think it'll be one of the more powerful AI tools on the market once it comes out. So that's something I'm very excited about, but I can't disclose exactly what that is just yet. But we're shooting for a January launch, so everyone should be able to find out relatively soon.
And if someone wants to keep up with the progress of that, where should they?
I would say social media, but like we're not really active on social media either. I'm actually hiring a marketing person, so we probably will get more active on social media. But you can just follow me on LinkedIn.
We'll link that in the description.
Yeah,
for sure. Awesome. So I was kind of curious about something. It's like when you're like growing a company, right, and you're starting to hire on employees, how do you build a trust with them to where like you're telling them these new ideas and expect them to build it for you? Or how does that work, that relationship between you and your employees?
You got to be the man. You got to be you're the guy, the CEO, right? You have to be a high value individual, right? People love following high value individuals, right? Like any one of your audience members, I'm sure, would love to work for Elon Musk or the president of the United States or this and that, right? What society perceives as a high value individual, right? At 23, no one follows me because I have years of experience, right? I have to convince them that I know something that they don't. And that if you hop onto this ship, you will achieve success. The way I was able to do that is because, the ship is succeeding, and it's been succeeding for the last 3 years, and it's continuing getting more successful. So obviously, if you hop onto this and the trajectory is like this, any human being can say, okay, I can project it to be over here.
That's interesting. Yeah, so it's like you being the high value individual, you being the man, that's what gets you that respect from your employees.
I would think so, yeah. But you would have to probably ask them.
That's cool.
That's amazing. I really hope that doesn't interfere with the sound, but we apologize if there's any background noise. So before we get to the rapid fire questions, we have a few rapid fire questions that we try to ask our guests. Was there any advice you were given at a young age that you think really impacted your mindset, or just kind of changed who you are or stayed with you? Not necessarily changed who you are, but just stayed with you and you want to share with the audience today?
The biggest battle any person deals with is with their own self. If you can win that battle, the rest of the world's very easy.
That's amazing. Okay, we're ready to start the rapid fire.
Cool.
3, 2, 1. What is one skill you believe everyone should have?
Discipline.
Cool. What's your all-time favorite movie?
Big Short.
Oh wow.
So if you could give your younger self one piece of advice, what would it be, other than discipline?
Believe in yourself.
Believe in yourself.
Can you walk me through your morning routine?
Get up, pray, take a shower, go maybe for a walk, and then go to work.
Nice. What's your current? Who's your current role model?
Living or dead.
Either. Actually, let's do living for now.
I don't think I have one living. Yeah.
Dead?
The fourth caliph of the Rashidun.
How do you usually relieve stress?
I have 2 dogs and a bird, so I hang out with them.
Nice.
Yeah.
What's your proudest accomplishment to date?
Making my parents happy.
Nice. That's a good one. If you could have any superpower, what would you choose?
I wouldn't choose a superpower. I think human beings already have all the superpowers we need.
That's neat. That's amazing. What's your dream job?
What I do today.
Nice.
What
That's
emoji? What emoji do you use the most?
Lately, I don't know. Yeah, I haven't thought about it. Yeah.
So that's all good. Is there any quote that specifically inspires you?
Yes, but it's one of religious scripture, so I don't know if I can say.
It's all good. I mean, you can if you have it off the top of your mind.
Yeah, from God we come, to God we return. It reminds you of the purpose of this world.
That's amazing.
How would you describe your mood today in one word?
Chill.
That's chill.
Right on.
Yeah. Is there any idea that you have for a product or service you wish existed?
Yes, and I'm working on all of them.
Nice. That's amazing.
That's cool. What's your go-to comfort food?
It depends on the day.
How would you describe yourself in 3 words?
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know.
That is 3 words. That works.
What's your favorite color?
Green.
Green.
Yeah.
What skill are you eager to learn next?
Spanish or Arabic. I want to learn a language. I'm very bad at languages, though.
Gotcha. Board games or video games? Which do you prefer?
Depends on the company. If like the squad's up on video games, then you play with the squad. But like if it's a board games night, then it's a board game night. Yeah.
If you could make one wish for the world, what would it be?
To understand our true purpose here.
Is there a specific place you've been dying to visit?
I think I've hit them all, actually.
You've done them all?
Yeah.
That's amazing, yeah. As we wrap up, if there's one key point that anyone were to take from this episode, what would it be?
Discipline plus self-belief plus hard work will amount to success. The pursuit of excellence is in us all, right? People often attribute excellence as a characteristic of a person. Oh, this person's an excellent person. The reality is excellence is a state of mind. Every person, every human being has the ability to be excellent. It's just can you turn that on?